Hey YouTubers, just Ronan here with my bar channel. We're either building it, assembling it, repairing it, or just replacing it. What I'm working on today is my friend's 2010 Toyota Rav4. The problem he's having is that the air conditioner would randomly turn off when he has it on and would randomly come on sometimes for an extended period of time. When it's on, it blows really cold. So follow me along. Let's get this troubleshoot and try to see if we can fix the problem. So since the air conditioner blows cold when it's on and running, I know that it's not a refrigerant problem. It's got to be some kind of electrical problem. So there's two things that I'm concerned about, which was the pressure switch and the flow sensor. So what I've done is I have this electronic diagnostic. So I pulled it out to start testing. So I hooked up my launch diagnostic tool and it pulled the VIN and I went through the whole process just to see what I can find, because I saw some of these guys and other channels, they use the diagnostic tool and it'll tell them exactly what's wrong. If there's a flow sensor, low voltage, they can manually turn the air conditioner on and off from the tool itself. However, when I went through my tool and ran the diagnostic, the air condition, the AC monitor says it's not available. um, I couldn't get any type of reading because I don't think it was equipped with that chip to show me what exactly was wrong with the air conditioner itself. There was no detailed readout. So I put that aside and went to the manual process. What you're looking at right here is where the pressure switch is located. So I went ahead and disconnected it, and I got a test light, and I'm just checking for voltage, making sure I'm getting some kind of voltage through. Exactly the amount of voltage that's needed, I wasn't too sure, but I was just checking to make sure I had power going there, which I did. I think it's probably about 5 volts. Most of these things are about 5 volts. So I moved on to the sensor. Now this sensor is in a very difficult spot to reach. So the problem is you can only get one hand and some fingers on it, and you have to press the clip to disconnect it. So it was very difficult and to pull out and disconnect the wire from the sensor. However, I finally got it off. Once I got it off, I tried to test for power and voltage, but you really cannot test for much voltage because the sensor needs to be connected into the circuit itself, so you can check for voltage, for reference voltage and feedback voltage. And to do the voltage test, you really need to do it from the inside the car itself on the AC amplifier circuit. That's where you need to check it. And here are your voltage specs that you're looking for. So I got back on it another day. Here I have a fan that's cooling the engine down, so I can get back on it and start checking uh, the sensor again. So what I've done is I've got this magnetic extension rod. The tip is magnetic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rod, because I read somewhere online you can activate the sensor magnetically if it's defective. So I took the magnetic rod, and I placed it on the sensor. And once I placed it on the sensor, you can hear the engine just takes off. Once the engine took off, I went and checked the thermostat I had in the vent to make sure it's blowing cold. Now, if you watch a thermostat, you can see it's dropping from 104. You'll see it went down to 103, and it'll go down to 102. So I know definitely the sensor was at fault. It would kick on. Now, once I turn this car off, the compressor would not kick on again. So it's definitely troubleshooted down to the sensor was bad. I left the old sensor in the car on the compressor itself. I left it on the compressor because you cannot remove it. It's held in with a C-clip. So to remove it, you need to remove the compressor. So what I've done here was I zip tied it to the refrigerant line. I saw someone put a photo somewhere on the internet about doing this, and it worked perfect. So I tied it down with a zip tie and a regular wire tie to hold it to the refrigerant line. Um, and once that's held to the refrigerant line, we went and checked to make sure it would turn on and run while the AC was set to the on position. So it's very hard to tell from the video what I'm really trying to do here. And if you never looked at the car that good, you won't be able to tell. So I've put a still photo. Right here you can see where the sensor itself with the wire is zip tied and wire tied to the air condition line itself. So that's how I held it in place. Check the description in the video for a link to the sensor. This sensor can cost anywhere from $10 to $50 depending on who wants to rip you off or not. The dealer does not replace the sensor, requires the entire compressor replacement. And to get the sensor off and on from the compressor, you need to pull that entire compressor off the vehicle, and to pull it off is not an easy job. It requires removing the radiator and some other stuff just to get to the compressor. So that requires also evacuating and recovering the refrigerant, changing the sensor, and putting new refrigerant charge back in the system, and all the stuff that goes along with air condition repair. So this was a temporary fix. If this holds up, we'll run it for however long it lasts, and when it goes out again, we'll probably end up pulling the compressor and replacing the sensor and putting it back on because I have the tools. Now what I'm doing here is that since I have all the tools for the air conditioning, I went ahead and checked the refrigerant level, make sure it's operating the way it should. The highs are at the highs, the lows are at the lows, and top it off with some refrigerant if it needed it or not. So that's the process I'm doing now, um, to get him up and running back on the road. The low side reading on this gauge is not the correct reading because I didn't have the valves open. Currently what I'm doing is that I'm just running the air conditioning to see if it's blowing cold enough in the system and the temperature is going down. So I'm frequently checking the thermostat I have installed in the vehicle to make sure that the temperature is continuously dropping. So you can watch the temperature drop. I've got everything hooked up, ready to go. Here you can see the reading is blowing at 100 and it's wanting to drop. It's trying to go down to 99, but it's functioning. It was a hot day and everything was hot, so that's what's currently blowing out of the vehicle. Once we get the system running for a few minutes, we should start to see the temperature drop. In a nutshell, if you're experiencing this air conditioning problem, get yourself a magnetic telescopic rod and see if you can locate the sensor and touch it to the sensor to see if it'll activate the AC on or off. And if it does, you know directly that's your problem and you can work on a fix on that. When it was all said and done, I was able to get the temperature down in this vehicle to about 41 degrees blowing out of the air conditioning. And all it cost was a little bit of time, and I believe I paid $20 for the sensor on eBay. I believe eBay was a little bit cheaper than Amazon. So like, share, and subscribe to the channel for future video. See if I'm going to replace this compressor or not. Thanks for watching. Peace out.